meeting of the Westport and Middleton Joint Zoning Commission to order. I don't know, since we're on Zoom call, I think we'll do a roll call vote. So I'll call myself in, Joe Pichette here.
Okay.
Why don't we just go down the list? Mark, can you call them off?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Cindy Kennedy.
Here.
Mary, I think, was going to have somebody filling in as a designee. But
John Kusha is supposed to be here. I don't know if he's here or not.
John, are you here?
I just sent a message to John. Remember to check in, so I would expect him to be here. But
I just realized when I sent my reminder out this afternoon, I'd sent it to Mary and not to John.
I sent it to John.
All right, thank you.
He should be there.
And then for Middleton, we have Nick present, Nick Adams, Chris Harp, and Aaron Summers are all present. So we have 5 present.
Okay, perfect. So Mark, I'll jump onto your agenda here. I see you got a public hearing. There isn't any, correct?
Correct. I forgot to delete that. Sorry.
Could that be public comments of items not on the agenda?
I don't know if I can't remember if we've usually done that, but the intent was that that's just our template and I forgot to remove it. So if you'd like to have that on the agenda in the future, we can do that.
Yes, I would. Thank you.
Okay. Well, then let's take the opportunity then under this item. I guess that's good enough.
Okay, well, since we've got some people here, I'll ask if there's anybody that is joining us from the public that would like to make a comment of something that is not on the agenda. Please chime in. Okay, hearing none, I'll move on. Approval of the November 20th, 2023 meeting minutes. Would anybody like to make a motion?
Motion to approve the minutes.
Okay.
Summers, second.
Motion by Cindy, second by, I didn't hear.
Aaron Summers.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion, any corrections, comments, or changes? Hearing none. All in favor of approving the minutes? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Agenda items. We have a concept review for wheelhouse storage, recreational facility, and park. I see Jake Buns is here, but I think before that, we'll let Mark or Dean, if you want to chime in and share anything, go ahead.
Well, I'll jump in quickly. What you have in your packet is the submittal provided by Mr. Buns. And my understanding is it's a bit less than what the town of Westport Plan Commission received in December, and that's because they didn't submit a full set of plans because they want to get feedback first from this committee before they invest in some revisions to their more detailed plans. So that's all I have as background. Dean, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, our plan commission found that while the concept made sense, there were a few concerns. One was that the scope of the project and the scope of the size of the buildings near the residential area might be a concern. That the additional traffic on Onken Road could certainly be something that we should be considering. And I think lastly that help me out here, Joe. I think there was a situation that people felt that maybe across the park or across the road from Dane County Park might be inappropriate as well. So there are a couple of little things that were bothering us. Well, the idea makes sense and might be a welcome amenity for the neighborhood. So it wasn't uber warm, but on the other hand, they didn't throw the whole idea out either.
Okay, and I'd like to just add here a procedural comment, Jake, so that you know, and Mark, I don't think it's appropriate that one committee or one plan commission is given one set of plans and another is given another. I understand if you have additional information that you want to add, but to retract information, I don't think is appropriate. And in the future, I would expect that both commissions are reviewing the same packet of information, because there was some changes I see But I think to have a fair shot at everybody looking at it, we should be presented with the same information. So Jake, if you can go from there and go ahead and discuss what it is that you would like to present.
Yeah, I will. Mark, I'm
You want
gonna
me to
share.
stop sharing? Let you
Yeah,
share?
that'd be great.
Okay. You should be able to now.
Yeah, here it is. And Joe, it was more of an omission of just because when we came to Plan Commission when that was in December, we got feedback from you guys and have incorporated those changes into new architectural plans, but haven't incorporated that into our civil plans. Just because we want to get a temperature check with this body to see where we're at before we spend money on the civil plan. So we
Okay.
just remove the civil plans. But yeah, I completely get that point. Yeah, so to give the obviously Westport's heard the spiel, just the general spiel, and I'll update that a little bit. But to give the Middleton Commission members a background, this proposal, we're just seeking conceptual feedback, obviously. It consists of a recreational building, wheelhouse storage buildings, and then a private park area. The land where it's located is on Onken Road, just west of Inspire Early Childhood Learning Center, where if you're driving down Onken, it's where the hills, where that big hill that drops going eastbound down to Inspire, where the trees are, and then where all these dilapidated barn buildings are. As you can see, these are photos taken probably 2 months ago. Just existing conditions of those barns are pretty extremely run down and have lived way past their useful life and are just sitting vacant at this time, almost begging for some sort of, activity that none of us want going on there. So this development would be a very much needed facelift to the Onken Road area and to get rid of these dilapidated barns. So as I mentioned, the location of the project, this is Inspire Early Childhood Learning. Here's the red box, that's about where Wheelhouse is. And then this map obviously is just a page from the master development plan of the community of Bishops Bay. This exhibit is a future proposed amendment to the Westport GIP, but I figured it would give, just because there was some questions on Plan Commission about size and scale of this building, as Dean touched on, and how it relates to the surrounding areas. So I wanted to put this in here to give you an idea of what this area with the wheelhouse buildings and the recreational facility would look at like in the future at full build out, when there's neighbors next to it, and what we're planning to develop in the area. So just know that this isn't approved, but I just wanted to give you guys a general idea. So obviously this is the site right here outlined in red. We are planning for a future school area off to the right of Homestretch Drive that would go in here to the east, and then future apartments that are currently planned for up here, but at some point in the future we'll seek a GIP amendment to move those off Onken Road. That was a suggestion by Joe and the Plan Commission a while ago, and I think it's a great idea. But you can see where the wheelhouse storage and recreational facilities sit in the park within this, pinned in between a future school and future apartments. And then the backside would be a continuation of the farm neighborhood. You can see where the lots are. Moving on here. So this is what the site looks like currently. So under all this is those dilapidated barn buildings. I think there's either 6 or 7 of the buildings on the site, and then you can kind of see the overlay of where the trees are, that we try to incorporate those trees into our plan as well. But Onken Road up top here. But just to give you guys an overview, this building right here, the larger facility, is the recreational building. We don't have a specific use for it yet, although we have been talking to a hockey, a local hockey association that is looking for more ice arenas, and also a tennis and pickleball operator. So it could be one or two of the above, or maybe a combination of both. This building footprint actually consists of 2 ice sheets. So it's similar to like the size and stature of Capitol Ice Arena. And then on the south side of the site here, these are the wheelhouse storage buildings. So our intent for the wheelhouse storage buildings is it's not meant to be mini storage. There's a large gap in the market right now, in the storage market, for RV and large RV and boat storage. So these are 50-foot deep storage units, 14 to 15 feet wide, and 12-foot high doors. So they're large units, and they're meant for, like I said, RV and boats. During COVID, I think there was a push for a lot of people to, that were able to work from home to, get out of their house, go purchase an RV and go camp and explore. And I think now people are realizing that they've made a huge investment in an RV and might not have a place to store it, is the stories I've heard from a few RV owners. So this is a very needed, these storage units are very needed, but that's the basic background. The storage, this eventually would be 3 separate lots. The storage building would be its own lot, the recreational facility would be its own lot, and then the park would be its own lot. The storage buildings would be obviously fenced off with a gate and access code and cameras, just to make sure there's some sort of security around it. But you can get the general overview of the site here. The park was placed here for a couple reasons. One, this is, as called out in the MDP, this area where these trees are, which kind of is exactly where it shows, was called out as the farm park in the Bishops Bay Master Plan MDP. So it calls out something similar like this to maintain the trees, restore the prairie grass, and create walking trails throughout this area as a park. We've added access points into the park from off of a future path that'll go along Onken Road, and then also back through to where, if you can imagine this past slide, this is the park. There would be a path access point back up to where the houses are back in here. But yeah, that would maintain the existing nature of that area and keep those big beautiful trees. There's actually quite a bit of to address the comment on the I would say the scope of the site that the Westport Plan Commission brought up last time I was before them. The Onken Road at its high point is about right here. From here down, it slopes pretty steep until you get to about right here, and then it flattens off all the way out to County Highway M. So I'll show some renderings later of this building, but in terms of the size and scope, this hill is so large that the hill itself would be above the roof of the hill, and or the base of the trees would be above the roof of this recreational building, and the canopies of the trees would for sure be above the roof of this recreational building. To give you an idea of height, an average, youth ice arena like this one that we would propose is about 30 to 35 feet high, and a tennis facility would be 42 or 43 foot high. They just need extra space for lob shots and stuff. So to give you the height and the scope of everything, it really, the building is kind of shrunken in size compared to these trees and this hill right here. The other thing that kind of changed from this plan, from the previous plan, that I wanted to bring up was there was some questions on how these homeowners would feel about having storage buildings in their backyard. I think what we did to address that, and as part of the Bishops Bay MDP, is this area also called for community gardens. So one thing we did was add a large 2-acre area for community gardens. Then in the back of single family lots would start right back here. The other thing we did is we're planning on adding berms in here with some sort of arborvitae or trees or plantings so that you shield the storage buildings and just make it, you know, more, not that they're ugly buildings by any means, but it's a metal facade, so just make it so they're less visible to the homeowners behind them. I will note that from the back of the storage buildings from here to the back of the future single family lots, that's about 200 feet. So it's quite a large, quite a long ways. Also, I'll note that the grade right here at the back of the storage building to about the grade where the existing farm field is that we're planning, and you'll see within our grading plan when we submit fully, this is about a 7-foot to 10-foot, depending on where you are along the back of this change. So this is the low point right here, and then it slopes up 7 feet to where these landscape plantings are. So from the single family homes, these buildings are sunk into the ground even more. Just to give you an idea. And some of the renderings here will show that, but these are just some visualizations of this would be the recreational facility, and then those would be the wheelhouse storage buildings. You know, it's pretty conceptual at this point. It's pretty rough draft on the rendering, but you can see on this next one just how large this hill is. If we're on the top of the hill on Onken facing eastbound, you can see that the hill is almost about roof height, and the trees are much higher. So in terms of size and scale, the building it's a good spot for it because it blocks it to the west, versus, you know, as opposed to if it were up on this hill, it would be very visible for miles around. Here's another picture. So these would be the community gardens right here, and then this would be the landscaping behind the wheelhouse storage buildings, which are these buildings. So the single family lots would be off to the left side of the screen here, but you can see, you know, and this doesn't show the full depth of the community garden area, but you can see how much screening that we could put there, so that the single family lots don't necessarily feel like they're right on top of the storage buildings. So the other comment that I heard was just the color of the red. So we put together some other options. Like I said, these renderings are really more, I wanted to figuratively show this so that, you know, you understand we can play with the color a little bit if the red is too much design wise, but, you know, we put together a gray and white option just because they're simple metal panel colors, but we're open to other suggestions as well. And that's really all I had. If anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Perfect. Thanks, Jake. Mark or Dean, do you have anything that you want to say here? Otherwise, I guess we can just jump in and start taking questions, comments, and thoughts.
Nothing that.
I don't have anything particular, Joe.
Okay.
I did reach John. He'll be jumping in shortly here.
Okay.
All right.
Mark, do you have anything?
The only thing I would add is that as zoning administrator, I've determined that this would require an amendment to the general implementation plan for the development.
Okay.
So that would go
Right.
through the rezoning process following the
Okay.
usual zoning process with a
All right.
hearing for this body and the council.
Okay. Well, I'll jump in and add my 2 cents. This is the first I've had a chance to see this, Jake, so I appreciate you coming and making a presentation. Just some general comments that the first thing that jumped out at me was the private park. I would not be in favor of that area being a private park, regardless of the wheelhouse development going forward or not. I know that those trees were in the master development plan as being a 4-acre park, and that was to be a public park. So I think that it would be appropriate for that to be a public park. And the community gardens was what was supposed to be in this area was a 4-acre community garden. So 2 would be significantly less. And then across the street, there was supposed to be a 40-acre parcel that was supposed to be dedicated to Westport, and it looks like that has been sold to Dane County, so it's still a park. But you know, we've lost some significant park in this area, and the general feel for this area, at least from what I could get from looking through the master development plan, is I didn't see anything commercial planned for this area. The area was supposed to be residential and with a CSA type of farm operating and community gardens, and really with the development being called the farm, the intent was for that to be a farm area. And I think it would be whether or not there's a need for this type of facility, I think it would probably be more appropriate down on the city end of Onken than in this area. So that would be my overall feel of it. Just a couple of comments. I think pulling RVs onto Onken Road, which is already quite narrow and needs to be improved. I'm concerned about any additional traffic on Onken Road, especially large RVs coming in and out at the bottom of a hill, I think is a bad idea. And anybody that's driven down Onken, it's sketchy and it's going to need improvement. And I think that's something that the developer is going to need to take a look at and make a determination as to when they plan on improving Onken Road. As far as site specifics, I don't like the idea of the RVs using the parking lot to be able to access that area, regardless of where it's at, whether it's here or further down on Onken to the east. I think the concept would need to have an access, and I saw in your plan that when or if Homestretch Drive is done, that the access would be there, but at least initially it wouldn't be. So I wouldn't be in favor of RVs pulling through a parking lot full of kids at a hockey competition or whatever it might be. I guess my last comment would be is I think this might be a little bit too far ahead of itself. I'm seeing more fractured development. The development started at the western side with the Back Nine neighborhood, and then jumped to the Westport side, which is the farm and prairie area in the woods. And I see this being disjointed from those other areas, at least initially. I think it would be better to focus on areas that are contiguous with the existing development and not continue to do more fractured development in this area. I don't see this area being filled in for a number of years with housing, considering phase 7A and 7B are in front of you, and the rest of this area hasn't been platted yet. With all that said, I did receive a few calls from some members of the community of Bishops Bay that called me over the weekend and were not in favor of this, did not feel that it was an amenity that would be appropriate for the development, and felt that more commercial type things would be better on Onken Road down further to the east, and that this area shouldn't be used for this type of thing. So those would be my comments. Somebody else or anybody else want to jump in and offer any suggestions or comments?
Well, I'd like to jump in with my apologies for being late.
That's okay.
And sorry about that. And I guess I missed a lot of comments. I've kind of heard your take on it before, Joe.
Okay.
I think that the development itself, I can really see the value for Bishops Bay as a whole. It's a great amenity for that community, because my take on Bishops Bay is it's an affluent community, and people just tend to have boats, and they tend to have sports cars, and they tend to have, RVs and that sort of thing. And, obviously they don't necessarily want to load up the neighborhood with all that stuff parked next to their house. To have something like this in the community makes a lot of sense. That being said, I tend to agree with Joe. The piecemeal development is a little awkward, and it's really critical that the road gets fixed before anything like this would show up. And I don't know if you went there at all, but the last time I heard about this, the amenity building was going to be either pickleball courts or maybe a ice arena. And if that's the case, there's continuous traffic, and that road is pretty taxed as it is, and it's not going to get any less in the coming years.
Yeah, I remember when the TIA was done for the Inspire, that intersection at M and Onken Road, I believe, was either at a D or an F. Right. From standards, and this being so close to that, I think that's gonna have to be addressed. I think there's a lot that needs to be done there. And just so any of you don't know from the Middleton side, John Kusha is sitting in for Mary tonight. John is our town chairperson, so thanks for coming in, John.
Yep, and my apologies, I had my alarm muted for other reasons and I lost 15 minutes. Sorry, apologize.
Anybody else want to jump in?
Sorry, Joe, I was trying to unmute.
Okay,
Joe, you hit almost every single point I wrote down when I was
Okay.
just taking notes here.
great minds think alike.
Really big concerns about RVs and boats trailering off of Onken at the bottom of that hill. Even driving on that hill with watching cars in and out of Inspire, there are issues. And I hadn't even looked at the fact that the vehicles would have to go through that parking area. And I can't see that working. They would have to have an entrance and that just wouldn't fit in this. I don't see that it would fit in this plan at all. I also had concerns about the fact it's right across the street from the county, the land across the street, and I'm just surprised that this commercial development would be part of what people are going to look at instead of being able to see across the street. And I also have concerns about our Westport residents on Onken Road, who already have the cemetery that has is in development already on their right next to their homes. That adding this more commercial property, squeezing it in by that hill and that park are just it doesn't fit. And I do see the need for ice time and pickleball courts and storage and all of those things. I just don't see this as the right spot for it.
Thanks, Cindy. Anybody else want to jump in from the Middleton side? That's everybody from the Westport side has chimed in. Anybody?
I don't have anything additional to add. I agree with all the points that have been made. I think you thoroughly covered it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, nothing more to add here.
No, I agree.
Okay. Dean or Mark, you have anything else you want to say? Jeremy, do you want to add, or not Jeremy? Jake, do you have anything? Seeing Jeremy's name here on the bottom. Jake, do you have anything else that you would like to add?
No, I appreciate all the feedback on this. It's good for us to get all this feedback. I would say just to address the fractured development thing. I think, you know, if we look at this, you have to look at this almost as a completely separate, obviously it's within the master plan, but a completely separate type of development. You know, this isn't single family housing like we're doing with phase 5, 6, or 7. We can still keep plugging along with those phases as as there's demand for it and as the lots in the previous phase sell. But this is, you know, a separate thing that we're looking to take advantage of the extreme need for ice time right now. The Middleton Youth Hockey Association, Madison Capitals, Middleton High School Hockey. I know Middleton Youth Hockey Association, for example, has 60 kids on an ice sheet at a time, 4 teams, which is just not you're not going to learn how to properly play the game then. So they need an ice rink like not now. They need it like five years ago. And then, you know, obviously there's great demand for the storage buildings. So I understand that it looks fractured, but you know, it's something that this is a 700-acre master plan development. We got to keep chipping away at this when the opportunity presents itself, or, you know, it's just going to keep dragging out. And like I said, we'll keep going at the single family stuff, but I want to almost separate this from the single family stuff because it is so much different and can be, since it's a different market, it can be built at the same time. But yeah, I appreciate the feedback. We'll go back and take a look at this and then figure out next steps with Dean and Mark from there.
Okay. And I'd like to just add, I didn't comment, but architecturally, I like the idea that you're trying to at least blend the architectural of a farm kind of into the farm setting, I think is nice, a nice touch. But I would rather see this someplace else in the Middleton area and not in this specific location. I think Cindy kind of hit a lot of points about it. The other thing too to consider is that is a DNR hunting land across the street, and having kids in and out of a setting like that may be a challenge. But anyway, that's all I have to comment. Unless anybody has anything else, we'll move on.
Yeah, Joe, I don't have anything else right now. I think we'll have to regroup a little bit with the developer, and I would suggest that Mark and I maybe get together on this as well and try to come up with something that might make more sense.
Okay. All right. Great. Thanks, Jake. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, so moving on, the next item on our agenda was committee meeting date and time. I think Mark would like to get a formal kind of regular time and date set up for us to meet.
We used to meet in the past, especially when Kelly staffed this committee. It tended to be the fourth Wednesday of the month, is my understanding, and looking at the history of it. I know that there's at least one member for whom the fourth doesn't work as well. So I just thought it would be good for all the six of you. And John, you're kind of filling in for Mary, but I assume Westport's schedules are known by most of you. So I just wanted you to give me your thoughts as to when you'd like to have a regular meeting.
I guess I'll jump in here and say the only time that would later in the month that does not work for me is the third Thursday of the month. I have Middleton Fire District meetings on the third Thursday of the month. Other than that, I'm pretty open.
I guess I'd say from a staff perspective, either Wednesday is fine with us. So that's not an issue. And generally Westport doesn't have meetings on Wednesdays, so Wednesday is the most open day of the week as well. So
Time wise, does 6 o'clock work for everybody? Would you prefer earlier, later?
6 is good.
6
Six
is
is as early as I could make it. I was only home 10 minutes tonight before I had to jump on the meeting. So yeah, especially if they're in person like this, it would have been in person tonight. It would have actually been late. So yeah, 6 is as early as we can go.
Okay.
Nick or Chris, one of you had a third Wednesday conflict, I thought, or a fourth Wednesday maybe.
I think Aaron and I both have third Wednesday. I definitely have third Wednesday because our daughters are in the same Girl Scout troop and they have Girl Scout meetings on Wednesday nights, and then I have one other obligation on the third Wednesday night. Sorry, on the third Wednesday night. So we're like triple booked right now on the third Wednesdays as is. So I can't add one more thing to.
You would prefer the fourth Wednesday.
Yeah, and I guess the only conflict with that is, as Chris pointed out, there's 4 of us that have Plan Commission on the 4th Tuesday, so not terribly ideal to have 2 nights in a row, but I can make it work if necessary.
So Mark, you got the feedback. I don't know if 6:30 is an appropriate start time, if that gives everybody a little more time, if that's a good blend for Nick, or if the odd hour is not appropriate, but
I think, oh, go ahead.
I'd say tonight was an anomaly. Traffic was atrocious tonight, and normally it's not this bad on Wednesdays. So normally I'm home by 5, just after 5 o'clock. So tonight was an anomaly, but so 6 would still work.
okay.
Well, I mean, speaking personally, in my observation, 25 years of working for the city, I find 6 o'clock an unusual start time just because do people have dinner before or after? Just from a family perspective. I mean, I don't have young kids anymore, but that's my only observation. I can make 6 work because I don't have kids, but that's just, either 5 or 6:30 or 7, to me, it seems like one of those would be better as opposed to 6, but if the committee wants to meet at 6, I'm perfectly willing to staff it.
I'm okay with any time. I guess those of you that have children probably are the ones that need to speak up, and I think the rest of us can make it work.
For me, Parks and Plan both start at 7, and that's a good time to start. I mean, 6 isn't the worst thing, normally, but I don't know what Aaron you think about time start. Yeah.
I like my bedtime solid 9, so I don't know, 6:30 is good for me.
Is 6:30 a good compromise?
Yeah, I could
Yep.
do that in case it goes long. It's rough
Okay.
with kids' bedtimes and all that, especially if we're zooming.
Perfect. So it sounds like Mark, 6:30 is the time. 4th.
Yeah, and then
Day
that's
of the
since Aaron brought it up, I think that's a good discussion too. I know Westport folks in particular have indicated a preference for meeting in person. In the past, we would meet, kind of alternate between Middleton and Westport. Frankly, you guys have better technology at this point, but I also want to be sensitive to my Middleton members here who it's nice to share the travel responsibility, if you will. So
Hey,
that,
Mark.
Yeah.
At least for the next year, it's going to be bad on M though to get to
That's true.
Westport.
Yeah.
Just, just bringing that up.
That's a very good point. But my point is Zoom versus, meeting online versus meeting in person. I know there's been interest from several members to meet in person, but now that Cindy pointed that out, what do you think about that?
I'm okay with Zoom unless we have some sort of presentation where it makes sense for everybody to be together. I'm okay with Zoom for these meetings. I don't know about the rest, but it doesn't matter to me.
So I'm just a proxy here. My comment, Cindy, about the Westport being under construction. I live in Mary Lake, and anytime after 6 or so, it's pretty manageable. It's not that bad, but that'll change probably.
Yeah, as far as in person, it doesn't matter to me. I'm right in the middle, right? It's about equal distance for me to get to Westport Town Hall as it is Middleton City Hall, so it doesn't matter to me.
Should probably just take it a meeting at a time, whether you go in person or Zoom it.
Okay. All right, I'll work with Joe and with Dean on that to determine when it's best to meet personally versus when we can get by with Zoom. So
yeah, and it seems like a lot of people would prefer the Zoom, so yeah. I'm open to that if that is agreeable. I understand that some of you on the Plan Commission in Middleton have got back-to-back nights almost, and that would suck. So I feel your pain and can understand.
All right, that was very helpful guidance. So 4th Wednesday, 6:30, with a preference to Zoom unless there's a good reason to meet in person.
Perfect. Okay, so I think that was everything that we had, Mark. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right, unless anybody has anything, any matters not on the agenda that they would like to speak of. If not, a motion to adjourn. Okay, so would anybody like to make a motion to adjourn? Cindy,
Motion
you
to
make a
adjourn.
motion? Okay, somebody second?
Purple second.
Okay, Chris is gonna second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hey, any opposed? All right, everybody, see you maybe next month.
Night.
Later.
Hi, everybody.
Bye.